There we are. Martine, everything you work on is to improve people's lives. And as you know, aging takes more lives than pretty much anything else. So could you give us your perspective on this field?
I feel very optimistic about the field, Mark, and thank you and Sanjay so much for organizing this Life Itself conference with all of the incredible presentations. I mean, with so many brilliant people and well-meaning people doing such practical things to advance human health and to push back the lifespan for longer and longer years, I think it's just like inevitable that we will all be blowing through this 100-year lifespan and living healthier, happier lives well past 100 years.
How do you choose what you want to work on?
I try to kind of, it's a hard question to answer. I think what I need to work on sort of chooses me. When our youngest daughter, Genesis, got this fatal diagnosis, it was absolutely essential that I work on saving her because otherwise she would die. When it really became impressed upon me with the Pope and people saying that, climate change was an existential risk for humanity, I had to begin working on zero carbon solutions in construction. We've built the world's largest zero carbon footprint building, over 150,000 square feet in Silver Spring, Maryland.
Unisphere, is that?
The Unisphere, it's called the Unisphere, and now zero carbon aircraft. So it's just kind of these problems that engage me.
So now you have a goal to create an unlimited supply of organs.
Yes.
What do you mean by unlimited supply?
What I mean is that anyone who needs an organ should be able to get one without having to have people choose whether or not they will be allowed on an organ transplant list and then having to wait for somebody to die for them to get an organ. I think humans it brings out the worst in our behavior when things are scarce. So I would like, just like, antihypertensive pills are not scarce. Everybody who needs them can get them. There is no practical reason why anybody who needs a kidney, a lung, a heart, a liver should not be able to get one. Technology can make that happen within this decade and the next.
Right. So in terms of donating organs, it's just clearly not enough, is your perspective?
Well, it's not. And the reason why, half of all Americans, actually more than half of all Americans, are organ donors. Despite that fact,
is it that high?
It is that high. It is, and in other countries like Spain, they have presumed consent. Almost everybody is an organ donor. Despite that fact, only about 1% of the people who need an organ ever get an organ. So, for example, in the U.S., we have 250,000 people each year die of lung disease. Only 1% of those people, 2,000 people a year, get a lung transplant, despite the fact that over 50% of everybody is a lung donor. So if everybody was, it would only be 2% of the people would get. So the problem is the way that people die does not lend itself in the vast majority of the time for organ donation to help someone.
Okay, so how are you going about this to solve this problem?
So we're using technology to solve this problem. And the first way that we are going about it is by modifying the pig genome so that those pig organs can be transplanted into people. Most of us probably know somebody who has received a porcine heart valve at one time, and it's because the pig's organs and their heart valves, their heart, their lungs, they're all the same size and shape match and functional match with humans. And so we first decided to use the brilliance that came from Craig Ventnor and the Human Genome Project, sequencing the genomes of the pig and other animals to figure out which particular genes to modify so that the pig's organs would not be rejected when they were placed into a person. And I actually have a video that shows how this works.
Great. Can we play that video?
And I say that I believe our company should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of growing a healthy lung and transplanting it safely into an appropriate human patient.
So, great music, by the way. So the video showed, I think it said over 200 lives from manufactured lungs. Are these from pigs?
No, actually, those are the lungs that have been, people have died, and the lungs were not wanted by any transplant surgeon. So they were being thrown away, or in some cases cremated or buried with the recipient. They weren't wanted because by the time the individual died, the lung had been all congested with mucus and fluid and was not really safe to put in a person's body. So we developed a technology which we call ex vivo lung perfusion, that we explant the lung from the decedent, we fly it to a centralized processing facility. We have one in Maryland and one at the Mayo Clinic. And there we treat the lung as the patient under a glass dome. We clean up the lung, we bring it back to life after its transport, and then we send out that information to all the lung transplant surgeons nationwide. And since doing that in 2015, now over 250 people as of this time have taken those lungs, they've been transplanted in their chest. Every single time we have saved one of those lungs from bio-waste and got it into a patient's chest. Every single time the patient leaves the hospital and continues living a healthy life.
Wow. So, all right, so then tell us all how you want to use pigs.
So what happened, Mark, is we began this project, as I mentioned, to completely genetically engineer the pig. And as we did that, we did experiments with genetically modified pig kidneys, pig hearts, pig lungs. And the pig hearts and pig kidneys were doing great, but the pig lungs were not doing so well. And in the animal models, they were dying quite quickly, whereas we went actually years with the xeno hearts and more than a half year repeatedly with the xeno kidneys. So we kind of bifurcated the project, and we said, let's use a technology of 3D bioprinting in addition to the salvaging of donor lungs for the lungs, and we'll focus the xenotransplantation effort on the xeno kidneys and the xeno hearts.
And the heart that you put into a patient not long ago, which was groundbreaking, historic, covered by CNN, New York Times, pretty much everybody at the moment. It was a very historic moment. That patient, though, did die a couple months later. What happened?
Yeah, the patient was very, very ill at the time he was transplanted, as you could understand. And what he wanted to do, he was in multiple organ failure and kidney failure. He had been on ECMO, which is an artificial breathing technology, for 4 months before he died. So his prognosis was never going to be good. But Mr. Bennett, the very brave patient, he wanted to use any last life that he could have to demonstrate to the world that genetically modified pig organs would not be rejected by the human body, to help countless tens of thousands of people into the future. And in fact, we proved it. He ended up dying due to complex reasons related to his kidney failure. He developed septic episodes during his last time of life. And he had contracted a porcine cytomegalovirus, which was not actually the cause of death, but it was something that people tried to treat. So there were all of these, what the doctors call complex causes of death. But at the time of his death, there was no rejection of the xeno heart, and it was a complete proof of principle that our 10 genetic modifications to the pig genome would successfully produce organs that would not be rejected, at least within 2 months.
He was a hero. I mean, he was
a hero. He was a hero.
This is Mr. Bennett?
Mr. Bennett.
Mr. Bennett. Yeah. Wow. So, okay, so that's one way you're going about things. How else are you trying to solve this?
So the next way I'm going about it is with 3D bioprinting technology, and I have a quick little video to show you about that as well.
Yeah.
Lung transplantation is often the only treatment option for patients with end-stage lung disease. However, shortage of suitable donor organs and transplant-related complications remain critical challenges. To overcome these issues, Lung Biotechnology is developing an unlimited supply of patient-specific lungs. In partnership with 3D Systems, Lung Biotechnology found new purpose for the digital light projection chip, used for years to bring film to life with pixels. Where others saw car chases and sweeping landscapes, Lung Biotechnology saw a breakthrough to print vasculature in native fidelity. Using the latest hydrogel biomaterials, these pixels can create organ scaffolds at subcellular resolution, sustaining the over 200 million alveoli and 8 billion cells of each lung. Inspired by nature, these scaffolds mimic lung extracellular matrix and provide oxygen through capillaries to support cells. Cells can be derived from the blood of the patient and reprogrammed to pluripotent stem cells, and then grown to produce endothelial, epithelial, and mesenchymal cells, which comprise the lung. Billions of cells are produced for each patient. As the cells come from the patient, the risk of rejection is reduced, eliminating the need for immunosuppressants. Lung biotechnology then developed a robust and validated technique called cellularization for populating scaffolds with patients' cells, bringing the scaffold to life and starting the process of healthy regeneration and repair. 3D printing scaffolds allow us to manufacture an unlimited supply of bespoke organs without defects. Manufactured organs can be transported directly to the patient through United Therapeutics' network of eVTOLs.
So if I can give you an example of this, I think we're, can I stand up? Okay, yeah, I'm doing it. So we're kind of privileged at this Life Itself conference, and I'm really humbled and honored to have the opportunity to share with everybody this lung that we have here on the stage, a 3D bioprinted lung. But what's amazing is this is the most complex object ever 3D printed in the history of humanity. And we have it for the very first time right here on the stage of Life Itself. When I say it's the most complex object ever 3D printed in history, just to give you an example, it consists of 44 trillion voxels. A voxel is a three-dimensional pixel. Each of those voxels is a result of a 3D printer changing the position and location of a set of amino acids that we use as the substrate for printing the scaffold of the lung. This thing is so complicated and so complex and so biomimicry and in terms of copying nature that all of its different capillaries and alveoli, there are literally hundreds of millions of capillaries and alveoli. If you strung them one after another, it would last 4,000 kilometers, basically from Venice Beach to like Coney Island, okay? And they each have to be placed so precisely that it is like if you drove a car from Venice Beach to Coney Island, the length of all of these capillaries, that car driving along a center line of a highway would never deviate to the left or to the right by more than the diameter of one human hair. Wow. That's how precise we 3D print these lungs. Wow. And I actually have one that I've brought with us that we've 3D printed just in the past couple days. And if you like, Mark, I'll give you an opportunity to actually touch it and hold it. And
I want to break it. It sounds fragile.
No, it's not fragile. It's a real lung. So I'd like to ask Chuck Hall, who is the, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Hall is the inventor of the 3D printer.
That's right. What's up?
Before I light this up and turn it on, Mr. Hull, in a conference dedicated to longevity, I would just want to point out that long after he could have retired multiple times, being the founder of this whole field, the founder of 3D Systems Corporation, in his 80s, he is now working day in, day out, advancing the state of technology to go beyond printing things like rocket engines and rockets, which people are doing, and automobile parts of every sort, which people are doing. But in his 80s, he has accomplished printing the most complex object ever 3D printed.
Thank you. Go on.
Somebody took the gloves. Somebody took the gloves.
We have any gloves? Anybody have gloves in the back?
No, we have gloves here, but I don't know if somebody took them. So they're hiding in here.
Trying to tell us something.
Okay. Let's see if our team can find some gloves while you just tell us a minute for this.
So we're not going to put this in a patient, okay? So it's okay to touch it with your
Here we go.
Here we go.
Thank you,
there
guys.
they found it.
Do you have one more set by chance? For Sanjay? Here, you
Yeah.
take one. We'll just
Yeah, no,
one.
you could use two because if you pick up with one, it might
Got
start
it.
to slip off.
Okay.
Here we go. Here's the real gloves. Here's the real gloves. Surgical gloves in the surgical tray.
You know how to use them.
Yes.
So we, every 2 weeks, we take these 3D printed lungs and we implant them in our animal models. And already they are supporting life support in the animal models. And we are doing this constantly. Every 2 weeks, we print and we test. We print and we test. We're getting longer and longer times. By the time we get to 30 days life support in the animal model, the FDA will give us permission to put them into human clinical trials. And I am confident we will be doing that in less than 5 years.
Wow.
Go ahead, just go ahead
you
and
can see. I don't know if people can see. You can see the sort of
vascular. Oh, yeah,
vascular.
and there's much more that's beyond your human eye. Yeah, go ahead, touch it and feel it. You've felt many
Oh, yeah.
a lung.
Feels like a lung.
Yeah, it is a real lung. It is a real lung.
Go ahead, Mark. You want to feel that?
So most complex 3D object, you can't see the gazillion of capillaries inside there.
Oh my God! But you can see the detail that's in there if you're up close.
I'd like to ask one question, if I can,
Please.
of Chuck. Chuck, you've been doing 3D printers since the very first ones. How long, just so the audience gets an appreciation of how fast we're accelerating our technology, how long did you think it would take to print this 3D, this lung, say 2 or 3 years ago? And how long did it actually take you guys to print this one?
Yeah, when we first started this, I had done the calculations and how we're going to do this, and I think I said, the good news is I think we can do it. It's a tough project, we can do it, but it's going to take, like a long time, a couple of months or more to print a lung like that. And you at the time you were working with scaffolds from pigs, from porcine scaffolds, and you responded, do you know how long it takes the pigs to do that?
Exactly.
And so that's when we started the project.
Excellent.
So for clarity for everybody, this is the machine that does the printing?
Yes.
Can you briefly tell us how it works?
Chuck?
Well, it uses a photochemical reaction to print, kind of like solid state lithography or stereolithography, that kind of 3D printing. But then these materials are special hydrogels that highly engineered to support life and to print and so forth.
Wow. So what are the limitations here? Like, can you do other organs? Or
We actually are already at our partner Volumetrics in Houston, Texas. We're 3D printing livers. In Manchester, New Hampshire, in the Milliards, so generously provided by Dean Kamen, we're printing both lungs and kidneys. Because of the beautiful synergies that Life Itself, this conference has done, we are now going to be tied at the hip with the amazing Doris, and we're going to be working together to be printing parts together. 3D Systems on their own has embarked on an amazing project of regenerative breast tissue to print 3D breast tissue for women, because a lot of women after mastectomies, silicone implants are just not necessarily the best strategy, or moving tissue around, skin cell around their body. So I actually believe that there is no part of the body that cannot be 3D printed, and our contract with 3D Systems includes, after the vital, thoracic, and abdominal organs, colons, and even brain tissue.
Wow. First of all, Chuck. Thank you, Chuck. Yeah. Yes, that is worth.
Thank you.
Chuck, thank you for bringing all of this and helping with all of this. So I'm going to let the team move some of this off. Martina, I have a couple more questions
Sure.
for you while
Thank
they
you so much.
remove that from the stage. Thank you so much, Chuck. So just tell me for a minute, we both share a love of aviation.
Yes.
And I know you've applied a little bit of your interest in that area to the field of getting organs where they need to be. Why? Why can't we just use UPS?
Sure. So, as a pilot, Mark, you realize that we buy fuel. You can't go anywhere without fuel. And even an efficient plane like the kind that you and I fly, they burn around 500 pounds of fuel an hour. And that's a lot of carbon footprint. And if we're talking about not just making organs available to a select few, which is the case today, but having an unlimited supply of transplantable organs, they can't be stored on a shelf at CVS. I mean, these organs have to be delivered same day. So you're talking about literally millions of metric tons of CO2 that would be distributed because of these life-saving organs. And I refuse to accept the fact that the cost of saving people's lives is to trash the entire planet. So I knew absolutely, I mean, I was fortunate. I had a Tesla Roadster since 2009, and I immediately did the calculations. I said, you know, the kilowatt power of my Tesla Roadster could power my Bell 206B Jet Ranger helicopter. So I started right away working to adapt the basic technology of electric batteries to helicopters. I went to every helicopter company because I have a full-time job. I didn't want to do this myself. But they all said, no, this will never work. They'll be too heavy. Only one person in the whole country believed in me, and I went to a lot of people, and that was Dean Kamen. And so with his support and his knowledge and his guidance, I was able to build the world's first electric helicopters, set Guinness Book of World Records examples, and now we've started 2 other electric vertical takeoff and landing companies. You saw one of the images in the video, that aircraft called Aliyah, which is my daughter's middle name, and it also means in Hebrew something like to go up. So that aircraft is now flown from Vermont all the way to Arkansas, and is regularly flying over 200 nautical miles every day. So I am confident that within that same 5-year time frame I mentioned before, we will be delivering those organs for transplant by zero carbon footprint electric aircraft.
Wow. Martine, you are a force. You are a force, and yes, for sure.
I love life. I love life. I love the marrow of life, every drip of it.
Then let's end on that. You tell me, what does life itself mean to you?
Woo! Wow. Okay. I've got a little mantra that I share with my partner, Bina, and who's here? Yeah, she's somewhere in there. And Bina, and you know, people like, you know, Chuck, he inspires a whole generation of engineers in their 20s and 30s. You know, we all look up to him like a demigod, you know, and all of the people in our group, we all kind of share this notion that life is purposeful. Death is optional. God is technological, and love is essential.
Beautiful. Thank you, Martine. You did it. Thank you so much.